of DHS Realty. Today, I'm just going to cover our 1 to 4 family contract. So again, this contract is going to be fashioned after all the other ones, or all the other ones are fashioned after this one, which means that they're promulgated. They're going to follow the 1 to 4. So for land that doesn't have a structure on it, that's an unimproved contract. Almost all the paragraphs are the same. For a condo, you don't use this contract. So that's going to be a different contract, but basically the paragraphs are the same. This is the 1 to 4 family at the top. You're going to use it for a townhome, a single family duplex, triplex, quadplex. So just want to cover it real quick. I always think paragraph 1, the easiest way to do it is right here when you click on the seller. If there's 2 sellers, you put 1 on each line. Usually you get the seller name from the tax roll. You're going to tab, and when you get to the buyer, you click on it, and if you have 2 buyers, you put a buyer in each line. Again, usually you get the buyer's name off the pre-approval letter or the proof of funds letter, because cash transaction, proof of funds should have their name, and then obviously you want to verify that with the buyers that they're comfortable with their name that way. When you go down to paragraph 2, you usually have the legal description, which is going to be displayed in the tax roll. It's also going to be on the agent full report in the MLS. It's usually going to have a lot and block because that's the most common legal description. It might not have a lot and block. So again, if it doesn't, then ignore those. When it says addition right here, that's going to be subdivision. So addition is the same thing as subdivision. You're going to put the city, you're going to put the county, and then you're going to put the address. 123 Easy Street. You can see you can tab here and you'll put the zip code. If you look at paragraph 2B and 2C, that preprints what stays in a house. You don't have to ask the seller to leave it. So it's already going to stay. If the seller wanted to leave anything in B boy or C Charlie, you would simply type it in 2D. So for instance, if they wanted the chandelier, you would just type in chandelier. And that means chandelier is excluded from up here where it says chandelier stays. Okay. So again, you're going to put the exclusions, what the seller wants to keep with them. Paragraph 3, it's just real easy. If you read the contract, which I recommend everybody in our firm print this contract and read every word. It's amazing if you read something, how the answers sometimes just slap you in the face. Paragraph 3A, it says the cash portion of the sales price payable by buyer at closing. That's a synonym to down payment. So that's going to go in 3A. If you look at 3B, to the left of it, it says sum of all financing. That's the loan amount. And then if you look at 3C, it says the sales price, sum of A and B. And of course, A was the down payment. B is the loan amount. If you're doing a cash transaction, you're going to physically unmark third-party financing. But I have it templated because that's the most common financing addendum. Paragraph 4, I just like to make it super easy. It's leases of people and things. So if you read it, it says that, hey, if there's already a tenant in the property, not the seller, but a tenant, that the new buyer needs to get a copy of that lease. The security deposit needs to be transferred over to the new buyer. If there's a lease of anything on the property like solar panels, propane tanks, water softener, security system, that you need to give that addendum and all the leases to the buyer. They've got to know whether they can afford to have that revolving debt if it's more than 12 months, because it could blow their qualifying ratios. They might not be able to buy the house. So the easiest way to think about paragraph 4 is leases of people and things. People is a current tenant, not the seller that's going to stay in it after closing, but a tenant that's already in a long-term lease and or a long-term lease of items like solar panels. You go down to paragraph 5, you're going to have the title. And again, right here always is a title company, not an individual. So Truly Title, Chicago Title, even though it says comma as escrow agent, and you can see it right there, escrow agent is always going to be the title company, not a human being. So Truly Title at, you'll put their address. Earnest money is the first $ sign after the address. Option is the next blank. I already have $100 in there templated. And then you go down and it says that you're buying 10 days. So if you want to change the days to 3 and change the 100 to 1,000, well, that's fine. But always there'll be 110 days to protect you in case you miss it. You go down to paragraph 6. It's talking about the title policy. I've already templated that the seller pays it. All you're going to do is match the title company in paragraph 5 and put it in paragraph 6. So if it says Truly Title up here in paragraph 5, you're going to put Truly Title here. That's it. Most of this is all templated. Okay. We've got the survey that protects your buyer. There's a HOA, that's paragraph 6E2. If it already has an HOA, you don't have to do anything. If it doesn't, you'll uncheck mark this box and you'll mark not HOA related mandatorily. And the HOA is a property owner association. You go down to paragraph 7, and generally speaking, you have the seller's disclosure. So it will be marked already. These contracts are as is, that'll be marked already. So again, paragraph 7H, we have that we want the seller to pay $700 for a home warranty. Leave it alone if you're going to ask the seller to pay for a home warranty. If you are yourself buying or selling, have a 10% share in an entity buying or selling, or are working with a child, parent, spouse, you need to disclose that here in paragraph 8. Most of the time, that's not an issue. Paragraph 9, you simply click on the blank and it pulls up a calendar. You pick a closing date, probably after talking to the buyer, the listing agent, and the lender to make sure you can hit that date. Paragraph 10 is going to be whether the buyer moves in when it closes in funding, or if it's according to a temporary lease where the seller stays in after closing. Paragraph 11, I usually never put anything in here, but let's say I had an apple tree that you wanted to have the seller pull up. Seller to pull apple tree out of backyard. Okay, a fact. But I really don't like anybody putting anything in here. No reason to. Paragraph 12, it's called seller concessions. Or another thing it's called is you're asking the seller to pay closing costs for your buyer. In this market, it's going to be blank for a while. It's just because there's heavy demand and no supply of homes. But you would actually talk to the lender and get that value that you want the seller to pay for your buyer, and you would put it in here based on what the lender tells you. You don't guess. Have the lender tell you. From paragraph 12, you basically go all the way to paragraph 21. I like to put my email, my wife, we work together, and then I like to put the buyer's email, buyer@buyer.com. Okay. Paragraph 22, you're going to put any addendums that are attached. So I have the most common, third party and HOA. Sometimes you do this one, appraisal waiver. If it's conventional, you can't do an appraisal waiver on FHA or VA. Sometimes there's a seller's temporary lease. Sometimes it's a home built on lead. You might have a backup offer. That's there. You might have a buyer that needs to sell their home. That's there. So, just read. It's crazy. If you read, you'll find it. If you don't see it pre-printed, all you do is type here. And let's say you're an intermediary, intermediary. Okay, that's all you need there. Go down to basically page 10, and you're going to have your stuff filled on the left. You're going to fill out the listing agent on the right. If there's only one firm, that would mean it's an intermediary. Everybody's name is on the right, and you'll delete everything on the left and uncheck mark buyer as buyer only agent, and you'll mark seller as buyer and agent, your seller and buyer as intermediary. You'll put the listing firm here, DHS Realty, license number. You'll put the listing agent's contact information down to city, state, and zip. And then you'll put the selling agent is referred to as the buyer's agent. And so whenever you're the selling agent, that means you're working with a buyer. You would just put your name, okay? That would be all this right side if it's an intermediary, and this would be blank. If there was two brokers, you would basically just fill out this right side in the same length. So you wouldn't go any further than city, state, and zip. And there'd be another broker like Ebby. And that's it. Okay. Then you would save it. If you're going over it with a buyer, you basically go on it over it basically the same way. Hey, it's got the buyer and the seller. Paragraph 2 is what you're buying and selling. Paragraph 3 is what you're buying and selling it for. 3A plus 3B equals 3C. Paragraph 4 is usually not applicable. Paragraph 5 is talking about the earnest and the option. It'll be made out to Truly Title, and we got 3 days to get it there. Probably do a money wire. Paragraph 6 is talking about the title policy. It goes back to sovereignty of soil, checks for any liens all the way up to today. Generally, the seller pays it, but in this market, a buyer could pay it. It's a negotiable item. It's about 1% of the sales price. Go down to paragraph 7. It's the property condition. Usually you have the seller's disclosure, so it's already marked. This contract is as is. That's what it says in 7D. We're asking for a home warranty. That's 7H. We have a closing date, April 29th. Paragraph 10 is that you're going to move in the day at closing funds. Paragraph 11 and 12 aren't applicable. Make sure that you got the right email for the buyer, and then you basically tell them to initial every page and sign it. Again, that signing is going to be on page 9. This is probably the most important paragraph in the world. You're going to only fill it in after the last changes are made and everybody is signed and initialed. You're going to put today's date, and that's day 0, and all days start from that date. All righty. Y'all be safe, and hope this helps.